Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is David. Before I start this video about trauma and substance abuse, I'm a certified recovery coach, and I'm also studying in university right now to be an addictions counselor. So if that interests you at all, just check the description box and I'll leave a link to my website. And understand that I have difficulty speaking, and then I'm in a lot of pain too. So just in case you're wondering. I think would this not be the biggest topic in addiction, period? Substance use disorders, trauma. I find it really unfortunate, and I find it really unfortunate in general that so many people today have some type of trauma, whatever it is. Excuse me. Whether that be PTSD, CPTSD, and you know, trauma can lead in so many different directions, and then you can have one psychological disorder lapsed onto another, right? And so I've been studying this part lately, and like literally, guys, I've been blown away by some of the stuff I'm reading, and so I decided to pull this up. And I'll read more in this too than you see here. But, I mean, this is a shocking statistic. So, well, I mean, as you can see right there, my question is, how many substance abusers have trauma and or use because of it? I would say the likelihood of people getting trauma first and then using is quite significant. And don't worry, as I talk about this, I'm gonna tell you what you can do about it. So my question, how many substance abusers have trauma and use because of it? So this is just the AI, Google. It's still valid. A large number of people with SUDs have experienced trauma, and many use substances to cope with the distress of trauma. Look at this. The general population, about 75% of people with a substance use disorder have experienced trauma. Now, they're not being specific if it's before or after, but that is significant. That's very significant. People want to hide this, and they don't want to talk about it because it's shameful. And the stigma in society, people don't want to open up. Look at this. Clinical samples, I don't know what this is pertaining to, what study. Up to 95% of people seeking treatment for substance use disorder have a history of trauma. That's very significant. Teens who experience physical or sexual abuse are 3 times more likely to report substance abuse. Veterans, 35 to 75% of veterans with PTSD abuse drugs and alcohol. I have PTSD. And so I'm a good candidate to talk about it. And trauma can lead to long-term mental health issues. Like I said, one disorder off of the next. If you're not paying attention to treating it and ignoring it. Approximately 75% of individuals with a substance use disorder have experienced trauma at some point in their lives. So we know it's pretty big, and all these these numbers are going to be around the same. So I don't think this is something you hear about too often, but it makes sense, doesn't it? I don't mind talking about my own life for a second here. I can't I've been trying to specifically remember what came first, the trauma that I experienced as a child. Well, rather, yeah, I was about 12 years old, so I was preteen, so I was an adolescent. Um, I'm trying to figure out if I started smoking marijuana before or after, and I think my trauma came right before that. Um, I was hit in the face a number of times, and I just remember not feeling the same after that. I had a lot of trouble in school and stuff like that. It didn't get too bad too quickly. There's nothing better than when something like that happens than to go get help in some capacity and deal with it. And therein lies this whole entire problem. We live in a world where trauma is now normal. It's normal, and it's unfortunate. And I don't think the internet and connectivity and all that kind of stuff helps anything. You're gonna ask, how does that cause trauma? I do believe these types of. I do believe somehow it does cause. I would have to look that up, but I'm sure it never used to be like this. There's a lot of things you see that you're not supposed to see on the internet. Shortly after, I believe I had like my first drink or something like that. I had it. It was like the Christmas break of grade 8 or something, and I mean I wasn't too bad at that point, but had a hard time in school. I had a hard time in school already with concentration. I couldn't sit still in class already. And so the next year, it was like all about marijuana and stuff like that. It's unfortunate that happens, and all of a sudden you're introduced to things like alcohol and marijuana, which after a year, it was only making me paranoid, agitated, irritable. You know, it was putting me in a state of like dissociation. So what marijuana can do. Marijuana can in many people trigger schizophrenia and many different other personality disorders. Different things can happen from that. But you see, when you suffer shame, so in my case, and I repressed it for years. I really did. You know, you hear people talking about I repress this or this and that. You know, you hear that. It's true. It's true in many cases, and it wasn't like well, I suppose maybe I did want to forget about it. But so many things happened to me since that I forgot the first thing that happened to me. I remember being in school and feeling shame. And that's why I have these up. You experience a trauma, you feel shame. What do? I remember not feeling the same in school any longer. I didn't feel like the same person. And, you know, there'd be no way in the world I ever wanted to talk about it. So when I was introduced to marijuana and alcohol and whatever else there was, that was my getaway. And every time something ever became hard and something I couldn't face, is that not the story of everyone who uses? Something hard happens to you. Someone rejects you. Someone especially rejection. I remember one time I took rejection from a woman especially hard. I mean, I had been with this woman and suddenly she just broke it off. But there are many different variations of shame and using and different things that can happen to you that cause this. And, you know, when you have a trauma, just think of it this way, okay? Excuse me. I believe in God, okay? I'm a born-again Christian, and I say that. I don't judge other people by in my own practicing helping people, because I just want to help people. But now I forget why I said that. Okay, I know the analogy. This will make sense to you. Anyone who believes in God, okay, or this is specific, I guess, to my story. There's the analogy that every time you have a traumatic event, okay, say someone hits you, say you're sexually assaulted, you can get better. There's no doubt that anyone in any shape can get better. But every time you have one of these traumas, my analogy was being a born again Christian, and you'll hear why when God comes into your heart. You get a trauma and it leaves a scar in your soul. Okay, we'll just call it, it leaves a scar in your soul. They keep building up and it gets harder, much harder to handle, right? And you keep using even more. And then you're developing the most horrible, you can't acclimatize to things, and you're doing your behavior is inconsistent with who you are. You avoid people, you do all kinds of crazy stuff. You might become irritable, agitated, all those types of things. And using doesn't make it any better. So the analogy that I was going to use is when you face yourself, when you're finally willing to face yourself, okay, whether on the substance or off the substance, whether you're in withdrawal, anytime you decide to face yourself and do what's called introspection, when I did that, I felt God come into my heart. For the first time in my life after, 30 years? Guys, I'm 46, so I decided to take an inventory of myself because I didn't want to live. Look at my rabbit. I didn't want to live the same way any longer. I didn't want to hide from what had happened to me. And when I realized, I looked back at my life and I said, that's where it began. The analogy is that for God, He can help heal those things. Whatever it is you use to heal yourself, okay? But for me, it is God. And you can't get rid of those scars, but you can heal them. You might forget more and more what happened and realize that, these things don't matter, but they do to a certain point, but not where you are always focusing on it. It means you have to work on yourself. You have to be willing to look inside yourself. Listen, guys, for me, God healed my heart, and that's all I know how to say. He helped me so much. By me being able to be on here speaking to you is a testament to the fact that He has healed my heart. Do you want to stop these traumas today? Because here are the brutal stats on this. If you decide to continue using, you know full well that if you're using versus not using, so if you're using, right, you could go, after you use, say it's alcohol, you could end up in A, B, C, or D place. Horrible places, right? You know what it's like to wake up in some place that's not yours. But on the other hand, if you're willing to face yourself, you take a different path. Are you willing to accept Acceptance. Right? There it is. Acceptance. Let's take a look. How important, because it's AI powered now, how important is acceptance in substance abuse? I already know the answer, but I'm just putting this up for you guys. Is an essential part of recovery from substance abuse, letting go of, there it is. Listen, every person has a level of shame that's on a spectrum. So letting go of shame, accepting your substance abuse disorder as a treatable illness can help you move past shame. But I mean, you obviously have to face these traumas for what they are and continue learning. Learning from life lessons. Acceptance can help you find valuable lessons in every experience, even the painful ones. You see, these painful experiences can help push you forward. These can be the things that help give you drive. Healing emotional wounds. Do you always want them there? Is the question. So breaking the cycle of control. So you want that cycle gone. You don't want a continuous cycle of substance abuse and trauma. And what I didn't say was you go to, if you go to A, B, C, or D place. Here's the reality. When you're using substances, wherever you go, you have like a infinite more chance of developing another trauma, because if you're drunk, you're high, you know the rest. I was reading a study in this book. What am I reading? Drugs in Perspective, 2024 release for university. And it said, like just a mind-blowing stat, like what was it? A high number of women, especially when they're drinking, are sexually assaulted in universities. The number, I can't give you a number. I just passed it. I usually have a very good memory for these things. But, and I'm not going to look it up in this very second, but guys, it's really high. That's why it's important as a woman to stay away from these types of things, especially if you're in a university. So if you're willing to start to accept your situation and stop your substances of abuse, and if you can't stop them, and that's obviously an issue here, right? You can still do those things. You can still accept for what it is and make a plan. And I understand full well that some people are in much more difficult situations, like they're married to bad people, and just in places where it's much more difficult to do it. Maybe you can't afford to get therapy and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you can read, right? Most people have access to the internet. There's a lot of groups you can go to and stuff like that. There's always resources, especially today. I wasn't willing to accept the trauma that I had faced in my life for almost 30 years. And when you look back on it, which really in time wasn't that long ago, it was still years ago, but you're like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why wouldn't I choose a clean, healthy life with hobbies, interests, work, there's just so much stuff you can do that's better than doing that. So there's a lot of things like that will so first try to come up with a plan for yourself. What am I going to do? Like, if you're already at that stage where you realize there's a problem, isn't it funny how some people can just be hit by it after so long? and like realize that I can't go any further like this. This is taking a toll on my physical and emotional health. I can't do this. The lights are so bright, the sounds are so loud. I can't go into grocery stores, I can't go here, I can't be in this situation, and I understand that. I totally understand that. And believe me, my pain, of which I have a lot right now in this very video, makes it worse. So you have to learn how to deal with these things through there's many different ways you can do this. One of the ways I use is exercise. I work out in the morning, every single morning without fail, and I go for 2 walks a day, which helps increase your serotonin, your natural serotonin, your endorphins. It's a free painkiller, guys. Because I deal with very severe pain, I do that every day. Even where I am right now, where it's minus 17 Celsius, not Fahrenheit, Celsius, because it helps. There's a lot of things that can put you back into substance abuse. I know how easy it is. Like I would go and I was a binge drinker. And I would go, I'd be like, I remember saying to my parents, I'm doing well, like I haven't drank for a month, and I did feel good. And the reality is, that you tend to feel better when you're not doing these things. I'm not saying all the time, but I mean like both on your confidence, your emotional, and your physical. That doesn't mean you feel good if you suffer with trauma and stuff, but it's much better. There's a lot of things that could possibly trigger you. It could be an argument with someone, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parents, someone at your work. You could be rejected. You may go to places that just triggers in general. You hear a song, something that reminds you of something bad that happened. There are so many different triggers, and I find it very intriguing that things as simple as music, as simple as a smell of food. It's very intricate, right? And you got to learn these things. You got to learn how to. What am I going to do when this happens? So. Anyways, guys, I think that's. Maybe you one day want to be an addiction counselor, a recovery coach. You want to be a social worker, just a counselor of whatever type, right? You want to be these things. You want to be a nurse. You want to be a physician. Realize this. Look at their stats on this. Do you know how many people it would be? I'm sure it'd be the same. I'm sure it'd be worse with addictions, but it'd still be pretty high with, like, I would say, a social worker. But look, according to studies, between 40 and 85% of helping professionals, including addictions counselors, may have developed vicarious trauma. Vicarious. I don't know if they mean by treating people. Compassion, fatigue, or high rates of traumatic symptoms. What I'm saying is this. There's a high rate of trauma in addictions counseling. People looking to be addictions counselors. And I can tell you by doing my assignments, I have interactive, we have to interact with each other online for assignments, like peer reviews, stuff like that. But you read other people's work and you have discussions, and it's apparent that, and people say it out loud, like, I have trauma, and there's a lot of it. Makes sense, right? People who can empathize, like myself, because I experienced it. I know what it's like to go through withdrawal, shame, trauma, everything to do with addiction. And I think that's a good thing in the regard that we can empathize, right? So, what else did I want to say? I think that's about all I have to say in this video. What I say in this video, as I said in my last video, I'm going out of bounds of recovery coaching, just because I want topics to get people interested. So my goal with you, either on Zoom or the phone or in person if you're close, is to set goals, though. You know, small achievable goals, empathy, just goal setting, motivation. I can't give you medical advice, but I wanted you to know these things because I know these things will help you. It is my hope that in today's society, I don't know, let's take a quick look. Let's look actually, and then I'll end the video. How many people in general have trauma? Because I want you to feel like you're not the only one. How many people in the general population have trauma? I don't think they have a definitive number, but so a large percentage of people experience trauma at some point in their lives, but only a small percentage develop PTSD. %70 globally have a traumatic event. We all know this, you know, like people die on us, right? What about PTSD? So there it is. That's the National Center for PTSD.gov. About 5 out of every, that's 5%. And the US has PTSD in any given year. So that means, like, if it's 2020, that's, they say 5%. So another 5%? Is that what they're saying? I think that's what it's saying. Around 13 million Americans have had PTSD in 2020. Wow. So, I mean, I'd have to work that out, but it's high. It's high in today's society for various reasons. Drugs, culture, fatherless homes. Anyways, you get it. So anyways, guys, if you're interested in one-on-one recovery coaching, you want to set some goals, you want to do better, you want to achieve, you want to go slow, I can help you. I can help motivate you. I can help with your accountability. I'm not going to try. I'll try to hold you. I will hold you accountable if you are willing. But anyways, guys, have a nice day. It's almost Christmas. It's the weekend now, just before, so it's a Saturday, and it's almost 2025. So happy holidays, guys. I hope to do a video before then, but I've been going through a rough time, not because of trauma, but because of I'm at the tail end of a kidney stone. I get regular kidney stones, things I can't avoid actually, but they're hard to go through. So there's another reason I can empathize with you. Take care.